this video, I'm going to be doing a painting of Poppies. It's a watercolor painting. These quick paintings work great for just loosening up. So if I'm going to do something more detailed later, I like to start out with something like this and just get me sort of moving. Today it was necessary because yesterday I shoveled snow and I woke up just saying, wow, you know what I need to do is a loosening up painting. So I'm starting out, I don't usually sketch these, but today just felt like I wanted to try out some different ideas about composition. So I'm not getting too detailed with it, but I am going to put in just some basic ideas of where the shapes are. And I actually ended up not liking some of it and erasing some of it and moving some parts. And it's definitely easier with watercolor to move those parts around and make those decisions about composition before the paint ever touches the paper. In other medium, it's not as big a deal, but in watercolor, it's a little more difficult to lift it once you've put something down. So I wanted to get all my parts in the right places. I'm starting with the poppies, just using some red and getting that color down. I'm going to use a big brush for the whole painting because I want this to be a loose and fast painting that just gets me loosened up and relaxed for doing more stuff later. Important parts are that I really want to leave my edges kind of rough on this. If the edges look smooth, it's not going to look like a poppy. So I'm trying to leave those edges kind of rough and having those torn looking feathery edge parts, because those will really draw your eye to it when the painting is finished. And also I'm trying to leave some white spaces. I'm not trying to fill in every single bit of the poppy. I'm doing this quickly, trying to get it so that there are white spaces still, trying to get the rough edges, and then I'm also adding a little bit of other colors in there to make it not so flat, but so it's interesting. And you can also tell that some of the places have a darker color of red and some are a lighter color of red, just because of how much water is on the brush at the time. And that helps a lot with making it just loose and fast and fresh and not getting too bogged down in all the little details. For these stem and pod kind of shapes, I'm going to do basically the same thing, using some green colors. And I'm still using that large brush, and I'm really just trying to get in here and lay down the colors as quickly as possible, without getting too particular about all of the little edges and everything else, and letting the color kind of trail off a little bit. I don't want to have it all be one color of green. So I'm trying to put down some of this green, and then I'll go in and add a little more yellow or a little more blue or a little bit of gray, to just kind of change it up a bit and give it more interest. And with the paint being wet already from what I just put down, that'll be a lot easier when I go in and add those other colors. I can just kind of touch them to the areas that are still wet and they'll blend in all by themselves. I really enjoy my dirty palette. It makes me feel productive and it's kind of comforting. Also, having dirty colors on my palette come in handy sometimes when I need to muddy a color. There's already mud right there. But right now I need to get some sky colors ready, and I want to have them already in light values so that they're easy to put on right away and I don't have to mess with testing them over and over. So I'm just going to take some of the colors I want, put them in this freshly cleaned area of my palette, and get them to the values I want before I put them onto my painting. Since I'm trying to do this whole painting quickly and in a loose kind of style, my paint is still wet. The reds are still wet and the greens are still wet. And I know they're wet. And when I put this background color down, It's probably going to bleed in a few areas. I'm hoping it'll bleed in a few areas to give me more interesting background colors and maybe some interesting textures and things happening back there too. So I'm gonna do this as quickly as I can while the other paint is still wet. And in some places, I do leave a little bit of white border around the flowers or around the stems, just so I don't have too much of it just running all over the place. But I do want to touch it in a few places so I can bring out those extra colors and get some great sort of spontaneous, exciting designs and things happening in the background, so it's not all flat. I do, in general, I do like to leave some white space of the paper showing through, whether it's in the foreground or the background, just so that I don't have a big area of paint all over the place. I really like those little peaks of paper showing through every once in a while. They don't have to be everywhere, but some places is nice. I gave it a quick spray of alcohol just to change the texture a little bit in part of the background and give it more interesting things happening up there. To add more dimension in the background, it's nice to have some variety. And what I did is got some darker color here on my brush, and I'm just going to put it in some random places while this background is still wet, so it'll kind of flow into what's already there, but still leave some darker areas, just to change it up a little bit and have it not look too flat. I want to make a dark center for this flower here in the front, but I don't want to use just a plain black or a plain dark gray. So I mixed in some blues and reds and made colors that I'm using in my painting to mix with the black, to just kind of give it a richer feel and not such a dead, flat, black space there. I'm still leaving a little bit of white space just because it looks nice. I like it. Kind of like a little highlight spot there in the middle. But blacks in general, I like to mix in lots of other colors into the blacks because otherwise they just look really dull to me. So I already have this nice dark color, and I've already decided that this is going to be the dark color that I'm going to use for the darkest part of my whole painting. So to make that match, I'm going to use that same dark color and put in all of the shadowy parts on the flowers, and anywhere where the petals look like they might overlap, maybe that would be a good place to put in some of these darks to make it look shadowy there. Since this is my shadow color, I'm going to use that same shadowy color for my stems too. So the underside of the stems, or, kind of one side of the stems there, anywhere that I think it might fall in a shadow, I'm just going to put some nice shadowy colors on there and just sort of mix it up a little bit. The last thing I want to do is just get some highlights in here. My paint is now mostly dry, but not too dry for the highlights to blend in a little bit. So I'm just gonna take some yellow, go to the tops and add some interest there with a little bit of highlight on the tops. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you decide to try out this painting, I would love it if you would share a photo of how yours turned out. Also, I've really enjoyed the comments and all the likes and subscribes, so go ahead and try that out too if you liked the video.